You know, when someone holds you to your boundaries, you should probably treat them like an actual friend. But I digress. I have driven this Audi for about 30,000 miles now through all 4 of Missouri's harshest seasons for about 12 months now. And I wanted to revisit kind of how I felt about this car and how I'm currently feeling after actually driving it through daily driving conditions. Whereas before I had only owned it for a few months. So now that we're past the honeymoon period, let's really dig into what it's like owning a 24-year-old Audi. Like a wasted 2-month relationship, this car does do some things that make you regret putting yourself out there. For example, you can get every part you need to keep this thing running. However, some of the smaller parts, a lot of the smaller parts and plastics, are NLA. You can't get them. And if you find one of these cars in a junkyard, all the good parts have been taken. And even if there are parts left, you're not going to want them. Hood foams, NLA. Intake pipe, a revision you can't get anymore. Fuel injectors, NLA, the list goes on. Things like not having ESP, having one of the pre-1999 cars, the pre-recall cars, it can be really hard to get some of those parts because they were actually unique to the car. This means a lot of times you're going to have to make your own plastics, and that extends to the inside of this car. For example, I had to print this out of resin because if you do find these, they're already broken, and the ones that are not broken, people want almost $120 for. Normally there's a piece of plastic here, but it had so much repairs done to it that it was no longer usable and looked like a Frankenstein piece of multiple ABSs, and it was awful. It's better with it out. Let's talk maintenance costs. Besides the 60,000 mile timing belt, water pump, really the 60,000 mile big service that you think about, I don't calculate that into when I'm looking at maintenance cost of a vehicle. Reason being, I calculate that cost into the initial cost of the vehicle. And then past that, you know, you really got to judge if you're going to keep it for that long. So besides that, you know, your normal 5,000 mile oil changes, every 20,000 miles you have to change the Halodex fluid and filter every 20,000 miles. Some people say 15, the book says 20. That brings your total cost to keep this thing on the road just with maintenance about $70 to $80 per 5,000 miles. Which, yes, is technically more than most cars, but for torque vectoring all-wheel drive, I'd say it's worth it. I pose an important question to you. What does this Audi and your typical girlfriend have in common? The price to keep them pretty is exponential. Even if you think it's already pretty, you are still going to spend a ton of money and time at the Alta. Not only did I spend about $2,000 on these very sexy wheels and tires, I also spent another $100 in 3 days to put this ceramic coating on, which was well worth the time and gives my daily just that extra bit of clean. Again, not necessary, but I think it was well worth the investment. This leads me to my overall emotions about the car. And I mean, look at it. It's rounded, everything is thought out, the body lines, it flows. And I mean, I've heard it all. The rednecks telling me it's unreliable, parts are hard to get, blah, blah, blah. But underneath, it's just a Golf R. It's just a nice looking Golf R. And really, that's the only negative I've had about this car. Sometimes parts are hard to get. But really the point of this video, let's get to the real day-to-day with this car. Driving this 60 miles every day is an absolute treat. Not only does it have plenty of power to get out its own way, once you fix the blend doors, which is really just a matter of getting into here, once you fix the blend doors, this HVAC system is better than some modern cars. Like, I'm not like being sarcastic. It's so much more comfortable and pleasant. It's not as sharp. It's not as jarring. It doesn't feel the need to just blast AC and heat out of nowhere. It's very gradual. It's very nice. And to top it all off, the heated seats are perfect. Don't doesn't scorch you, but it can get really, really warm, for those extra cold days. And even before I had the subwoofer in, like if you get the Bose system where it has the amplifier and everything, I mean, it has plenty of sound. Like it was bumping even before. And even the small details, like these switches here, just the tactile, like clicking, everything is just, it feels so nice. Like I understand this is, early 2000s stuff. Eventually it's going to break, whatever. But I mean, just everything has a certain level of just like clickiness, and everything feels good. And on top of that, nothing in here rattles. So for this part, I wanted somewhere a little more quiet. Didn't realize the crickets were going at it. I also need this just so I don't get distracted. So what is my conclusion? Like I said, 30,000 miles, all 4 seasons. I mean, my 60-mile commute, it's a mix of city, it's a mix of highway. Here's where I'm at. And here's what I learned, not just with this car, but my Volvo as well. Cars to me aren't just numbers. We've established this. Whether or not you believe it, I will say this, which I've talked to some people, and I think we can agree on this. I could sit here, explain every intricate detail of how it drives. I don't need to do that. It's a 2001 Golf R underneath. I mean, how do you think it drives? That's exactly how it drives. Before I got this car, I didn't test drive one of these. I had an idea of how it was going to drive. It drove exactly like that. Did it surpass my expectations? Yes. Was I happy with it? Yes. But putting that aside, what I've learned is that owning a car, there's more emotion behind. This car has been with me through some life-altering experiences. And that's what I'm trying to convey to you, is that I want you to understand how this car, how it responded, how it made me respond to things differently because it was in my life. I know that doesn't make sense. It's never going to make sense. But that's the only way I can think to describe it, is that real life experiences impact how you perceive inanimate objects. Is that dumb? Yes, but I don't care. All right, I promised I'll get back to this. So what is my conclusion? This is well worth your time. Life sucks even at the best of times. People you love betray your trust and appeal to others. People change to the point you can't even recognize who they are anymore. And let's be honest, depression lingers in your shadow, patiently waiting for you to trip and fall. But a car like this starts every day. Most days. It's beautiful every day, though. No matter what, when I come outside, when I come out to the garage, wherever I'm at, I know what I get. It's beautiful. Truthful. To me, it's beautiful. I've heard mixed opinions, but it's beautiful every day. Unlike someone who must appeal to the status quo of their parents, this car is free and is loyal. If you get an opportunity to own a car like this in your life, take it. I don't care if it is an Audi TT, if it's a Beetle, if it's a Mustang, anything. If you think a car is beautiful and you want that car just because you like how it looks, have an opportunity someday if you have that opportunity someday, take it. And remember, life does get better. I know right now that is impossible to tell. And in fact, right now, to you where you're sitting, there may be no way out. But trust me, everyone else around you can see you're doing really well. And not only that, we're very proud of you and how far you've come, and whether or not that was with or without your car, whatever. You're doing really well, and you will get out of this. And trust me, even if you can't trust me, at least have some faith that it will get better.